Hey guys, I am back with another video, and in this video we are going to see how can we pass data from one page to another in Blazor SSR, that statically server side rendered Blazor with .NET 8 of course. For Blazor WebAssembly and Blazor server, the one which uses SignalR. Okay, so the passing data from one page to another, it is fairly simple with Blazor WebAssembly and Blazor server because we have interactivity there. We can simply have a shared common service or model class. We can add some data from one component, one page, and we can easily get or fetch that data from that shared class or service. So it is fairly simple. But for Blazor SSR, it's a bit different because there is no interactivity. Request comes to the server, it creates the instance of that component, it processes that, it generates the HTML, returns the HTML to the client, and after that everything is gone from server. Now there is nothing on server. Now whenever second request comes, it follows the same cycle. Now this is a totally different instance, everything is different from the previous one. So we don't have any scope or any let's say client state, we could say, in Blazor SSR. While with Blazor WebAssembly we have client state which resides in the application in browser, and for Blazor server with SignalR we have that client SignalR circuit which is specific to one client. That means we have some context of that user, we have state, we can have anything there, so that state can be reused for that particular uh, client, that particular user, which can span multiple requests, multiple pages, multiple Blazor pages basically, because we have that piece of let's say scope. But with Blazor SSR, as I said, this is totally different. This is directly server side rendered page which generates, returns, and then gone from the server. All right. So if you guys are familiar with MVC, if you are coming from MVC, there we had the temp data, if you remember. So there was temp data dictionary. We could add some data to temp data dictionary from one route, from one page or control action method, and we can simply navigate to some second page, second route, and then we can get data from temp data dictionary to that second route, right? All right. So for Blazor SSR, we have two approaches to pass data from one page to another SSR page. Okay, so both of these approaches we are going to see in this video. So what I am doing, I'm going to create a Blazor web app. Let's create it. Let's say Blazor SSR pass data between pages. Although the name is long, but it makes sense. Okay, so we'll use .NET 8, authentication type none. We don't need any authentication right now. We just want to see how can we pass data from one page to another. Interactivity, we don't need any interactivity, so none. Configure for HTTPS, this is fine. Let's create it. So it's here. All right. So the two approaches I was talking about, we have first approach, because there is no user specific state. When we are passing one data from one page to another, we can simply use URL, that means query string. So we can use query string to pass some data from one page to another. Now of course there is some limitation of this, we cannot have large data and we can only have string data, right? And the second approach we have is cookies. Okay, because this Blazor SSR runs in browser, we have access to browser, and after that we don't have anything. So what we can do, from one page we can set the response cookies, then on the second page we can get the data from those cookies, right? So let's quickly see how can we implement both of these approaches. All right, so in components, pages, we have home page, we have weather page. Let's do this. In pages, let's say I'll say page2.razor, and then we had that home page which was page 1, or maybe we can change this to page 1 if we want to, or maybe let's say home.razor only, and then we have page 2.razor. So on page 2, if we want to access some data, let's zoom it. So if we want to access some data from query string, for that what we can do, first let's define the page attribute. So it would be, let's say, page 2. So here whatever data we want to get from query string, for that we can simply have a property here. For example, let's say I want to have some message. By default this is a simple property, it does not have anything. We want it from the query string. So for that Blazor gives us one specific special attribute, that is supply parameter from query. All right, so by default how it works, whatever name we have for this property, it will going to check the URL for this query string. So for example, in this case, what it will going to search for, it will search for if we have something like page -2 question mark message equal, then whatever message we have. So it will simply map this thing with this property. And then on this page, we can directly display this. So here we could say, let's say h4 message from query string, and here we can simply say message, and now we are good. Now what if we don't have this approach? It also gives us for supply parameter from query. In this attribute we can explicitly define name property. So this is when we want to map this query string parameter with some other name from actual query string. So for example, in query string maybe it was msg, it was not message. So for this we can define this name. Here we can say msg. So now what it will do, it will simply search the URL, it will look for this msg query string, it will find this, then it will map this value to this message property, and then it will be like this. All right, so this is the case. Apart from this, let's have one more. We can have multiple versions of this, multiple properties here with different name, of course. So for example, let's say it was not message, it was some maybe status. Okay, and for this one I'm not using any name, so it will use this status directly. All right, so message from query string, and here let's say h3, and here we'll say status from query string status, like this. And now we are good. Let's quickly try it out. I'm directly going to run it. I'll manually add this URL and we'll see if we are getting this data. All right, run it. Then we'll make it dynamic. We'll add this data dynamically from previous page. Okay, so it's here. Let's add that URL. So it was page 2 question mark msg equals some random message, and status equals, let's say, success. Press enter, and you see status from query string, it is success, and message from query string, this is some random message. All right, so we are getting these data. Now let's quickly try it to pass this data from previous page. In our case the default page is home, so let's try home page. So we'll go to home page, and from home page what we can do, we can simply have one anchor tag here, a href, and from here we'll say go to page 2 with these query strings. So for this query string we can same have msg equals The same thing, some random message from home page. And although this should be URL encoded, but I'm having it directly like this. And status equals success, and the order does not matter. As you already know, for query string parameters the order does not matter, it will be same, and if we have status before then also it will be same. Here we'll say, let's say go to page 2 with query string data. All right, save it, let's run it. Now it will open the home page. On home page we should have that one link, this one, and when we click on it, it will navigate us to page 2 with the same data, success, and that's some random message from home page. All right, so first approach is this one. We can pass data from one page to another using this query string parameters. All right, now this was static. We can have some dynamic kind of thing as well. Maybe we have some code block here and we are getting some data. For example, let's say private string status string underscore status default value, let's say pending, something like this. Then we have one more private string, let's say underscore message, nullable message. Then in override on initialized, or maybe on initialized async, we are going to get some, so protected override void on initialized. Maybe we can get status and message from maybe database or from some service. All right, and after that we can populate this. So let's maybe have, let's say try catch block. We can have this exception here in try. Let's move this section to here. We are getting data from here, so here we'll say underscore message equals got data from database, and in this case we'll set underscore status to, let's say, success. We can have this primitive type. Maybe we can have this boolean as well if we want to. So boolean, date time, string, integer, all those primitive types we can use this directly here. Okay, so status, this is the case. And if it came to exception, here we could say message equals something ex.message, and status we can set, let's say, error, like this. And then we can directly use these two things here. So when we are setting this, let's have one more version of this anchor tag. Let's have some b tag here, and here what I'll do, I'll say for the second one we'll say status equals @ status, and msg equals @ message. Okay, here we'll say dynamic query string parameter. It should be this. All right, now we are good. Let's quickly try it out if it works. I'm going to run it. We have it. So first one, this is fine. Go to home page. Now the second one, if I click on it, we can see the success, got data from database. That means dynamically also we can add this. Now if there was some error, maybe let's throw some exception manually. So throw new, let's say invalid data operation maybe, and here we can have this message, so some exception message. All right, now it should come here and it should set error and this exception message as a message. Let's quickly run it, and we have this thing. Second one, here we can see error and some exception message. So this is the way we can pass data from one page to another using query strings. Now the second approach using cookies. So maybe let's do this. Let's create a component here, shared component, and let's move all this thing to the shared component. So we will have two components, one for query string and one for the cookies. All right. So let's quickly do this. In components, I'm going to create a new folder, and there I'll say query strings, or let's say pass data using query string dot razor, and then I'm going to copy the HTML markup, these two anchor tags, add this here, then in the code block I'm going to cut this everything and then add it in this code block. Save everything. Now we'll come back to home page, and here let's change this hello world to maybe pass data from one page to another Blazor SSR. This thing, welcome to new app. Let's remove this, and here we'll say h2, and we'll say using query string, and then we'll have that component here, pass data using query string. All right, we can add this using here, component or shared. So at the rate using this, and then we are good. All right, or maybe let's do this. Let's quickly have a div plus container. Here we'll have div plus row, and then here we'll have div class call sm6, duplicate it, and in the first one we'll have use query strings. It should behave same, everything should be same, and then second one here we'll say using cookies, and then let's create a new component in this shared. We'll say pass data using cookie dot tracer. All right, so here we have this thing. From here now we want to pass data. First let's change this, pass data using cookies. Now our home page is ready. Now on this page, this shared component, pass data using cookie. So here, first thing, how the cookie works, we will set cookie to the response. We'll set the name, at least name and value. So that name is going to be shared here and in the second component where we are receiving it. Okay, so for receiving end, and here let's do this. First I'm going to define a constant here. So private const, let's say string cookie name. It could be anything, let's say ap ssr data. It could be anything, the name is up to you. All right, then we'll have some data. Now we should have the data in serialized format. We can have any primitive type data, but we'll get set using string only, so we can serialize and deserialize the data if we want. Okay, so here first thing what we'll do, we'll simply say private, and then let's say we will have some data. So let's say private string underscore data, or maybe let's say I'm saying username. This is the data and it has my name, so Abhay Prince. Okay, now with on initialized method, inside this method I'm going to set a cookie. Okay, so now to set a cookie we need HTTP context, and we know with Blazor SSR we have HTTP context always there. So what we'll do here, we'll simply have public HTTP context. We can name it HTTP context only with get set, and this is going to be a cascading parameter. So now Blazor framework will going to provide this HTTP context for us. Okay, now in this HTTP context we can directly set this cookie. So what we can do, we can say HTTP context dot, now we have request and response. So to set the cookie, we will use response dot. We have this cookies collection, okay, and on this we can simply append any cookie. So the basic form of this append, this is there are overloaded versions of this. So the basic and very simple form is string key and string value, string key and string value. All right, then we have one more approach, one more overloaded method, string key, string value, and then cookie options. We can use these options as well, we'll see this in a bit. Then we have append, we can simply have a key value pair if we want to set multiple cookies at once. All right, so first we'll use this first one, append key and value. So for key we know cookie name, and then value we know that is username. All right, so now we are good. Now when we'll open this page, it will simply going to add this thing into the response cookies. Now whatever second request is going to come or to the server, it will have this cookie. All right, so what we'll do now, we have this cookie. Here we'll say, let's say passing @ username via cookies. Okay, I have this hard-coded message. Now we'll go to page 2. Now this was the setting part. Now we need to work on fetch part, the getting part. Okay, so for this also we need HTTP context first on page 2. So let's have it. So we have HTTP context as a parameter, as a property, and we are setting it cascading parameter. Now we can override this onInitialized method here as well. Now we need to get the message from cookie. So here we'll say a message from cookie, or maybe let's have it as a variable here. So private string, let's say underscore message from cookie. So message from cookie, and then we'll simply set this message from cookie. Here we'll say HTTP context dot request dot cookies. Now from this cookies we can simply get it. So here we could maybe say first dot default. Now it gives us key value pair. So we'll say c dot. Now this is value, this is key. So we can set key equals what was the key name? That key name was this cookie name. So right now I'm going to copy it to the second component where I'm using, but in ideal case you will have a shared maybe constants class and you will get it from there. But I'm having it here only, this cookie name. So here c dot key equals cookie name. Okay, now here what it is saying, first dot default, and from this we can say question mark dot value. Now if we know that we are going to get it this cookie, or maybe we have one more approach that is a bit simpler, we could say. So for that we can simply do this. Instead of calling first and default, we can directly use this indexer on this. So here we can simply pass the name, cookie name. I think it does not throw exception if this cookie does not exist. So here we are going to get nullable string, which we are getting from cookie. And now we can simply show this thing. So here let's do this. Here also we'll say div class container, div class row, div class call sm6. This was the first one from query string. Let's say h3 from query string, and then we have these two pieces of data. Let's say h6 and again h6, it was previous one. So we'll say status and message. Now for the second one, here we'll say h3, we'll say from cookie, and here we'll say h6, and we can simply say username, message from cookie, like this. And now we are good. Let's quickly run this and let's see if we are getting this username or no. All right. Now this is the very simplest basic form. You can have any dynamic data you want, right? Right now this just has this static method. Let's use the second one. So here you see from query string we have status error, message some exception message. From cookie we have this Abhay prints data. Now if we see, we came here, we have this data. If we check application tab in browser console, if we go to cookies, here we have this app SSR data, this Abhay prints, this cookie. So we can have two types of data, one which we want to persist. In that case, we will not remove this data, we will have it. Maybe it is needed for a longer span. And the second approach is we can simply get it. So if we want to use that for one use only. So we got this data in here. After that, we'll simply check if message from cookie is not null. Then what we'll do, we'll simply remove this cookie. If this was one time use data only, we should remove this cookie. So for this, what we can do, we can simply say http context dot response dot cookies dot, we have this delete method where we can provide cookie. So that cookie was simple cookie name. All right. So now using this, if we run it again, if we go from our home page to our page number 2, now we have this data. But now if we check in application tab, we don't have that cookie because after using it, we simply deleted it. So now we don't have that. All right. So this was the simple form, but we can pass. First thing, we can have multiple cookies. So instead of maybe this cookie name, we can maybe have username cookie and maybe AP SSR data, or we can have name it anything, maybe SSR username. I have this name, and when I'm appending it, I'm simply using username cookie. And then when I'm using it there on page number 2, I'm simply having this. So username cookie, I can simply use this username cookie. All right. Now, if we want to pass multiple data, again, here I am having this dynamic thing. Here also we can have the similar kind of thing. We can maybe get data from database. Okay. So maybe let's say there was some data, some piece of data which is maybe some complex object. We'll simply serialize it, add it to the cookie, then get it and deserialize it on the receiver side. Okay. So maybe let's do this. Let's on the root only, let's create some state. I don't know what we should use. Maybe I don't know, maybe it was some model, let's say app model. I don't know what it is, but let's say it was this, and here we had something maybe string name and int version. Okay, maybe it was something like this. So let's create it as a record, but it is up to you how you are approaching this. So maybe this app model, and here on the page from where we are passing this data. Okay, so here we'll simply say var app model equals new app model, and here we can pass the data. First we need to provide, what is the issue, why it didn't come, public record app model, public record app model, name and version. Maybe let's say it was the name of the application, Blazor SSR passing data, and then there was version, let's say version 2, it was version 2. Okay, then we can simply use this http context dot response dot cookies dot append. Let's maybe this time use cookie name, the first cookie name, and here we'll add this app model, but we need to serialize it. So we can use any serialization. So JSON serializer from system taxation dot serialize, and here we can simply add our app model, and now we are good. Now we can try to get the data from this cookie in our second page. All right, let's try it out. So let's go to page 2. Here we have this cookie name, and here we can have some model type here. So app model, let's say var underscore app equals, maybe we have this default value for this, and it is not saying this, so let's make it nullable maybe, because it has the two values, so we'll use this nullable. Then we'll simply display this data. So maybe from cookies, after getting the username, we'll do this h6 again. Here we'll say raw data, and we can say underscore @app. Then maybe we can have one more HR, and then we'll say f6, and here we'll say app name. Here we'll say underscore app dot name, but because this is nullable, so let's add question mark here, and same thing we'll do after this. So app version, and here we'll say app dot version, like this. All right, now after getting this cookie message from cookie, we can maybe have underscore app equals, here we'll say http context dot request dot cookies, http context dot request dot cookies, and here we can simply pass that cookie name. Now this will give us string cookie, right? So here we'll say var app string maybe, or maybe app value. Then we can check if this app value is not null, that means we have this cookie here. Now we can simply deserialize it. So we'll say underscore app equals JSON serializer dot deserialize of type app model from this app value. Okay, now we have this underscore app, and after getting this value, we can simply delete this. So http context dot response cookies dot delete, and then the cookie name. And if we don't want to delete it, we want to have it here like this always, so we can access this cookie on any page wherever we want. Maybe this was the kind of global data, so we can have it on all the pages, so we don't need to delete it if we don't want to. Delete this cookie if required. Okay, I'll add it like this. Now if I save it, everything is fine. Now let's quickly try to run it, and now we should see both of these data. So we are here. If I go to the second page, raw data, it was this record with this data, and formatted data, deserialized data, we can have app name, app version 2, and this is the username, and from query string we have these values. So you see, this is the way we can pass data from one page to another in Blazor SSR. Now as you see, with both of these approaches, in Blazor SSR we have this limitation, and that limitation is the query string is a part of URL, and for browsers, for URL we have a limit. Maybe it was 256 characters, or maybe it is longer now, but we have a limit of this. Then we have size limit on cookie. So we cannot have more than 4 KB of data in a cookie. Okay, so this is another limit, so we need to consider these limits as well. Now if there is any way, if you actually want to have some maybe large or huge amount of data, so the good approach can be, you can have some small identifier in maybe query string or in maybe cookie, and you'll set it from one page, then go to second page, get that identifier from cookie or from query string, and then process that identifier, fetch data from that identifier on the basis of that identifier, maybe from some surveys, compute something, maybe get data from some database or anything, and then use it, process it, and then display it. So this is the approach for huge data. All right. So that's all for this video. Please like this video, share this video, subscribe my channel, and do let me know in the comment if you are aware of both of these approaches to pass data from one page to another in this Blazor SSR model, static server-side rendering model. Alright, so that's all for this video. I'll be back soon with some other cool video. Till then, bye bye. Happy coding.